Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I have uploaded a video, and that's because I have been very busy with my schoolwork, the finals. So yeah, it's been a busy time, but I'm back again. And first of all, I want to thank you all for subscribing and for watching my videos. Because yesterday I was very surprised, but I have seen that I have reached 100 subscribers on this YouTube channel, and yeah, that means so much to me because yeah, I find it so great that there are 100 people who have been watching my videos and also found it interesting enough to subscribe. So yeah, it's great. And yeah, I want to thank you all. So hereby I want to say thank you. Большое вам спасибо. Dankjewel. Kamsahamnida. And arigato gozaimasu. So I know that on this channel I don't speak much in the languages that I know or the languages that I'm learning. I mostly talk about language learning in general, and hopefully that would change next year. I still have big plans for this channel, and this year it was a challenge for me to even film these videos in English because, like I said previously, English is not my first language. But yeah, it has been a great journey. I love to film these videos, and hopefully next year I will use more of the languages that I know. One of the things that I always say about language learning is that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to use the languages that you have learned or are still learning. And even though your pronunciation is not great, or even though, yeah, even though you're not fluent in the language, it's okay to make videos. It's okay to talk in that language and to use it, like improving your language. But myself, even though I give this advice, I find it very difficult. So I know how much people are struggling with self-learning a language and actually using the language. And this video is going to be about Russian because one of my subscribers a couple of weeks ago have asked if I would like to make a video about how to self-study Russian, and especially how to use YouTube for self-studying Russian. And I think it's because in a lot of videos about language learning that I have made, I'm talking about how I use YouTube a lot. And so in this video, I will talk about self-studying Russian in general, and then and like in the middle of the video, I will focus on how to use YouTube for self-studying Russian. So I want to thank you, the subscriber, for asking the question and for giving me this idea, because I think it's a great idea. And I already have made a video a while ago about how to start learning Russian, and it's more like focused on the beginners and people are just not familiar with the Russian language and just starting out. So you can check that out. I will do it somewhere up here. But this video is more focused on how to self-study, like in general. Doesn't matter which level you are, if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, I will give you some advice. And I think at every level that you are, you can use some of these tips. And the same week after I got this question, I have also seen a similar, not a similar question, but also a question that made me think about making this video. And it was on this polyglot group on Facebook, which I'm in. And for everyone who is learning languages, I would advise to make connections with other people who are also learning languages. It can be on Facebook and a language learning group. So I'm in this polyglot group, and there are a lot of people who are learning all kinds of languages. And this was a specific question for Russian. So this person said that he was learning Russian for a long time now through Duolingo, but he hasn't seen any progress, and he has had the feeling that he didn't learn anything. So he was doubting if Russian was the language for him, and he also asked some advice. So I thought it was a very interesting but also familiar problem, because I think a lot of people are struggling with self-studying. So I was very interested what other people had to say about this and what kind of advice this person got. So I clicked on the comments and the first comment that was made was like, you should move to Russia. Just move to Russia and then it will be fine. And furthermore, there were of course other advices as well, and some great advices too, fortunately. Of course, you hear that a lot in the language learning community, that you should just move to a country to learn the language. And that's the first thing that I want to start out with. I think moving to a country doesn't necessarily mean that you will learn the language. And also, staying in your own country and learning a language doesn't necessarily mean that you won't learn the language because you're not in that specific country. And I also think that a lot of people who are in this language learning community on YouTube or on other platforms, most of us learn languages because we like learning languages and not because we want to move to the country or to immigrate entirely or just to travel to that specific country. Most of us learn languages because we love to learn the language. I think it's totally possible and doable to learn a language without moving. So I have been to Japan once, and of course it would help if I lived in Japan. Of course it would help if I traveled more to Japan. But right now with Corona and of course for a whole lot of other reasons, you can't just move or you can't just travel the whole time. But you still want to learn the language. And I think that shouldn't be a problem. And one of the biggest arguments for this is the fact that in every country you have people living who don't speak the language of that country. And that's because you have to actually learn the language and not just move locations. That's like my first advice. Don't move a location for your language learning. I mean, that's a big commitment that you even don't have to make. And another example is a lot of people have learned English without living in an English-speaking country. So yeah, it goes both ways. So that was the first thing that I found interesting about this comment. But also the other thing that the person said, who asked the question about how to self-study Russian and what he was doing wrong, is the fact that he only focused on Duolingo. And a lot of people started commenting that, well, Duolingo is not such a great app, or you can't learn the language with Duolingo. And the last one I will totally agree with, but the first one not, because I think Duolingo is a great app for a lot of things, but not for learning an entire language and not for focusing on learning a language only through one app. And I will explain that. So the first tip that I'm going to give you is not to move to a country just for learning languages. You should move to a country because you want to or because for other reasons, but you can learn the language in your own country. And my second advice would be to use different resources and to just explore different resources. So for language learning, you have, of course, textbooks, you have apps and websites, courses that you can follow, you can take a class. There are a lot of things that you can do. If you're talking about self-studying, I kind of eliminate the taking a class, like an actual class, because then you're not only self-studying, you're also taking classes. If we're only talking about self-studying, which we are in this video, I will only give you advice and resources that you can use for Russian by only doing it yourself or doing it from home. Yeah, that will be my criteria. But yeah, the second tip is really to use all kinds of resources. And when you find out that that resource is not working for you, so you have been using Duolingo for months and you kind of feel stuck and you kind of feel that you're not improving in the language, that you're still haven't learned the Russian alphabet or not enough vocabulary, or that you still can make your own sentences and you also don't like Duolingo anymore. It's fine. Just end the relationship. Just stop using this app. That's the best thing that you can do. It's not the language that is not working out for you. It's the app that's not working out for you. And you should just stop using this app. You can find another app, you can find another resource, because I think it's very stressful to use this one app the whole time and to have all of these expectations from this app, and it clearly is not working for you. And yeah, that person started doubting if the Russian language was not for him. And of course, it can be the case. It can be the case that the language is not for you because you're not interested or you don't have a connection with that language. But that's a whole totally different discussion. When we're talking about an app is not working for you or a textbook is not working for you, you just have to skip that resource and just go to a different resource. That would be so much better for you. So in the video about how to start self-learning Russian, I talked about some of the resources, and I think the main resources that you should check out is having a textbook, an app, or a website, or a YouTube channel that you like watching in that specific language, and in this case, Russian. So for Russian and for other languages, I think the textbook is not, what kind of textbook you have is not the most important question, because having one textbook is enough. and a lot of the textbooks are the same. So they all discuss the alphabet, they all discuss some general vocabulary, and also some general grammar points, especially the beginner textbooks. They all discuss the same thing. So you should just buy something that you think is going to work for you. And if it's not working for you, just lay it aside and take some other resource and then maybe come back to the book again. With apps like Duolingo, I think it's a great resource to start out with a language. So I love using Duolingo to just get a general idea of how a language is working. I have Duolingo courses started in Ukrainian, in Chinese, in Korean. And then after I get motivated to learn this language, like I had with Korean and Chinese, I start using all the resources. Sorry for the sound, I live nearby a road, so you hear a lot of cars. Anyway, so I think it's a great point to start out, to learn the sound, to learn even the alphabet. I have learned some of the Japanese alphabet, some of the things about the Japanese alphabet, but also the pronunciation through Duolingo, through Memorize. Is also a certain app that is similar to Duolingo. But then you can't expect to learn everything just from this one app. And the textbook that I would recommend for Russian is this one. It's a Russian course from the new Penguin. I love Penguin series for books, but also for the textbook. When I saw a Penguin edition of a Russian textbook, I just had to have it. And yeah, I bought it for my husband because he is learning Russian. And I think it's a good textbook. You have like a map, and I don't know why there's a map in there, but it can be interesting. But you have a lot of vocabulary that you can get from this textbook. You have a lot of grammar points that are being explained. You, of course, start out with the alphabet, which is here at the beginning, Azbuka. And I think they explain it quite good. But again, there are so many textbooks that explain the same things. So if you're not in love with books like I am and want to collect all of the books, then you don't have to invest in a lot of textbooks and workbooks. Just find a book that has exercises in it and some general information. I think this book is doing a great job in this, and just stick to that book. And then you can invest all of your time in YouTube apps that are for free, or maybe you really want to invest in an app and learn a language with this kind of resources, because I think we use this kind of resources much more in language learning than actual textbooks. But I just love having textbooks, but it doesn't mean that I use all of them every day, every week, the whole time. Besides from a textbook and an app that you're using to kind of revise the vocabulary or to learn the alphabet, I think it's also important to have a good dictionary. And I'm not talking about like this big book dictionaries. I'm talking about a dictionary that you can use at every moment, which is easily to use and which you can have with you all the time. So I do have Japanese dictionaries. I even have a Russian dictionary somewhere and a Dutch dictionary. But for Japanese especially, I don't really use them the whole time. And when I want to look up a word, my cat is here. When I want to look up a word, I want a dictionary that is or in app form that I can use on my mobile, or a website that I can open easily on my mobile. So for Russian, I would recommend the same. I would recommend a dictionary that you can open up in your mobile or in your computer and look up a word very easily. And for this, I looked around and I have found a great dictionary, which is called Open Russian. I will link it down below. And in this dictionary, why I think it's a great dictionary, because it first of all is for free. You can find a lot of words for free. You can have a paid version, but you're paying not for the dictionary, you're paying for other things that they kind of give you in this website. And it's learning words, learning different sentences, and making exercises. So they have more than just a dictionary. But for dictionary, you don't have to pay. You can look up the word from English to Russian, and I think also from Russian to English, yes. So that's great. You can do it easily, and it works great on mobile. You don't have an app, but you can go to the website and it has a mobile format, and so you can use it easily on your mobile phone. The second thing that I find important about a good dictionary is the fact that you can listen to the word. So with a book dictionary, obviously you can do that. Sometimes I will use Google Translate when I want a certain word in a certain language, and For Japanese, I have a dictionary that I absolutely love, but for Chinese, Korean, or even if I want to translate a Russian word to the English or to Dutch or the other way around, I use Google Translate very quickly. But when you want like really translate a word good, you need a good dictionary, and for this I would recommend Open Russian. You also will get a couple of example sentences, which I think is great about a dictionary, because you can translate a word and you can sometimes understand the translation good and know how to use it. But simple words like book in Russian is kniga, and you know how to use this word in a sentence. But if you have a word that's a little bit difficult, or a word that you don't really have an English translation for, but it's like a very specific Russian word, then it's great to hear this word in a sentence. So you can find example sentences on this website, but you can also listen to the example sentence as well. And they give you the option to make your own sentence, or to build like a sentence with this word. But for this, you have to pay eventually. It's not very expensive. It's 18 euros for the whole year to use this website. And this is not sponsored. This is just a website that I have found. Why do I find dictionaries important in self-studying? Is because when I like walking somewhere and thinking about Japanese or another language, and I'm thinking about, well, how do I say this? How do I say this word in this language? I want to look it up immediately, because right now I'm thinking about this word. And if I look it up immediately, there's more chance that I will remember it because I'm thinking about it, than when I'm just learning vocabulary lists. So that's why I like to have a good dictionary, which I can look up words immediately and easily. And I think this dictionary does the job for this. So we have a textbook already, we have an app. And apps, I mostly, for Japanese, I use it to learn the characters. That's why I invest in apps, to learn the characters, not the language, just only the writing system, and to remember all the characters. And I would advise this for Russian, because Russian have, of course, the Cyrillic alphabet. It's a different alphabet than maybe your own alphabet. So it's good to use an app to learn that, but it's also good to write things out. It's also good to look some of the things up in the textbook. So that's why I said use different resources. And the last thing that I want to say about like this kind of resources is the fact that sometimes you will buy a book that is just above your own level, above your own, if you're a beginner, you bought a book which is advanced or intermediate level. Just put it away for a while, or an app that you don't really understand right now, just don't use it for a while. Use other apps and then come back to it later, and maybe you will find out that you now do understand that book or do understand that app. And yeah, I think that will really motivate you, because you see that you have grown in the language. But it also means that you don't have to throw out the book if you don't understand it. You should use a resource, like I said, that is really helping you out, and not something that you don't want to use but feel like, well, I bought it so I have to use it, because it's not true. It should be fun, and it should be effective. That's like the most important part about the resource. Those were 2 tips. And I already talked a lot. This is going to be a long video. The third tip that I'm going to give you in self-studying Russian is to document your journey. When a few months have passed, or maybe a few years even, you can look back at the point that you started at and the point that you are now in. And it's very motivating, but also you can see how you switch from one resource or from one learning method to another. And that can be very helpful as well, because I think most of us don't learn exactly the same way the whole time a language. I changed my methods a lot of times, and I try to learn about new methods of learning. So yeah, I think if you document all of that, it's very eye-opening how you changed in your learnings. And you can do it in different ways. You can have, of course, a journal where you write down, not every day. It shouldn't be a mandatory thing, because then it's not fun anymore. You can write down once a week or once a month, or when you feel like you accomplished something. You can write it down and then look back at it. Or you can record yourself. And recording yourself is important because you can see how you improve in speaking. So you can record like, oh, today I've learned this and this in your own language. And then you can say a couple of words or a couple of sentences in the language in Russian. So that's something that I would really advise you to do, just to document your journey. And I'm not doing that for every language that I'm doing. I have, of course, my journals, my language learning journals. But for Japanese, I like to write down sometimes what I have learned and to look back at it. So yeah, I would really advise that to do for Russian as well. And now we're coming to the YouTube part of this video. I think I use YouTube for almost every aspect of language learning, and it almost has replaced for me the traditional forms like textbooks and apps, because yeah, you can find so much information on YouTube. And I will just give you a couple of examples on how I use it for Japanese, but I will apply it to Russian because I have looked up for you guys some of the things that you can use YouTube for Russian. So the first thing, like I said in my video for beginning learning Russian, is the fact that you can listen to the sound of Russian in YouTube. So you can just look up beginners videos about words or about the alphabet. I would really advise to start out with the alphabet and just learn the sounds of the alphabet. And YouTube is great for that. You can find a video where someone is just going through the entire alphabet and showing you how to write it, how to pronounce that certain letter, and of course the words that you can make with this letter. And I think that's the best videos when you have these three aspects combined. So how to write it, not just showing you the letter, but really how to write it. And you can write alone with the video. I think it's important to just listen to listen to the language. So you can do that with music or with movies. And you can find a lot of Russian movies on YouTube and Russian TV shows on YouTube. I will come to this point back, but just in the beginning of your learning, just listening to the language is very important. And then if you're not a beginner anymore, if you're more like intermediate or advanced, I would advise you to find someone who is talking about things that you find interesting. So for me, it would be books, movies, or things about Japan or Korea. I love to watch videos about life in Korea. But find those videos or those YouTubers who are talking in Russian. So it can be someone who is talking about life in Russia. It can be someone who is talking in Russian about books or about other hobbies that you have. And just listen and see if you understand everything or anything at all. And again, that improves your listening skills. But also I think that's important because when you're self-studying a language and using textbooks and apps, you use like very structured sentences that you won't maybe use yourself in daily speech. But when you're listening to someone who is talking about things that you like, your hobbies, you can learn sentences and words that you would use yourself when you're talking about that certain hobby of yours. It's better to, I think, to find someone who is not only a native speaker. It's great to listen to native speakers because they have great pronunciation. But I think it's also interesting to find someone who is talking about certain topics or who is talking in Russian, but isn't a native speaker. He's just also someone who have learned the language or is still learning. And for this, I have two channels that I absolutely love to watch. And why is this important? Well, I give you an example. For me, like I said, English is not my first language. And when I hear someone talking in English who is not a native speaker, but someone from the Netherlands or someone from another country who have learned English as a second or third language, I find it more easily to understand that person than when I hear someone talking with a very British accent. And why is that? Because when you relearn a language, we start talking that language, we really concentrate, and sometimes we talk a little bit more slowly compared to a native speaker. We want to pronounce the words correctly, but we say it a little bit different than a native speaker. And that, I think that makes it easier to understand for someone who is also learning English or another language. So with Russian, it's the same. When I'm talking in Russian, I'm talking very fast for someone who is not a native speaker. And when you find someone who is talking Russian who is also not a native speaker, it should be easier for you to understand it. So I have two channels that I really like watching. The first one is from Haeyeon. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but it's a Korean girl who lives in Korea but have lived in Russia for a while. And she makes videos about Russian food, Korean food, about Korea, and also about her life in Russian. And she makes all of these videos in Russian. And I think that's just amazing because she does it so well. So yeah, I will link her channel down below. So I would advise watching this kind of videos. And there's also a Spanish girl that also makes videos in Russian. She talks more about the culture and about Russian words that are funny to her or difficult to understand. And I think that's something you should watch when you're learning a language, because learning not only from native speakers but also from other people who are learning the same language is very important. And you can use YouTube so well for this. So yeah, I will link both channels down below, and I think they're both so great and make amazing videos about the Russian language or about the Russian culture. And you can find also so much older people doing the same thing, but maybe for things that you find more interesting. So just look around. The next thing that I would really advise you to look up in YouTube is comprehensible input. So what is comprehensible input? A comprehensible input is something that you understand very easily just by hearing the words and seeing the thing that someone is talking about. So for example, if I would make a comprehensible input video, I wouldn't use any English or other language. I would only use Russian, and I would tell you, это книга. Это книга. And then the whole time I repeat it and maybe tell some more about this kniga. This will help you to learn Russian and understand the things that I'm talking about without using English or without using another language. It is possible because the things that I'm talking about and are very simple, but also because I'm pointing to this. And it can't be something else than a kniga. I wouldn't say that this is a pen or that this is a magazine. This is a book, and you understand that this is a book. So that's why it's comprehensible, and I can only use Russian in this video and you can understand it. So I think comprehensible input videos are very important, and I use it for every language that I'm learning. I did it a lot for Chinese, and I just started out with Chinese without knowing anything, and I just clicked on a comprehensible input video, and I've learned from one video I think 5 words that I still haven't forgot. And it was a very simple video of someone telling me that she wanted to drink Starbucks and to walk to Starbucks and drink coffee. Very simple, but it did learn me like 4 or 5 words, and also to make a sentence. So that's why I think comprehensible input is very important. And to find comprehensible input is very simple. You just type in comprehensible input Russian and you will get so much videos. Comprehensible input is great for beginners. So when you still have to learn a lot of vocabulary, you can learn easily vocabulary just by watching to these videos. When you're a little bit more advanced or intermediate, you can also watch storytelling. So again, learning Russian through storytelling. That's the only thing you have to type in, I think. And you will find a lot of videos. And storytelling is also a way of comprehensible input, but it uses a little bit more words, I think, because you have like a whole story. So not only I want to drink or I want to walk and things like that, but really a whole story about some characters, and that person will only talk in Russian as well. So I would advise comprehensible input videos with very simple scenarios for you as you are when you are a beginner. And I would advise storytelling when you're a little bit more intermediate or advanced. And I think this works absolutely great. And storytelling, you can search for storytelling Russian, of learning Russian through storytelling. But also it is called TPR, and that stands for Teaching Proficiency Through Reading and Storytelling, TPRS of TPR. So sometimes you have someone who is like reading a very simple book for children with you together and kind of showing you what is being told. And sometimes you have a story that that person made up himself and just showing you with his hands or with objects. And yeah, I think it's a great way of just learning simple things, but also to see how a sentence in Russian is being built, because we have a lot of like linking words that we are using to link the one word to another word, and you can see that great with simple sentences. And of course it's great for pronunciation and for vocabulary improvement. So yeah, storytelling and comprehensible input. I love these two kind of resources that you have on YouTube. and I will always use it for a new language. And I'm still using it for Japanese sometimes when I'm not feeling like really learning Japanese characters or using a textbook. And I would just look up comprehensible input or storytelling in Japanese on YouTube and just listen to it. And I think you can learn so much. Another thing that you can use YouTube for is for explaining grammar. So again, grammar, like the traditional way of learning grammar is having a textbook and practice exercises and the way we learn grammar in school. I never do that for my language learning because it's very boring and it's kind of difficult to do and to keep it fun, I think. And I think language learning should be fun. And that's the reason why I didn't like and didn't enjoy language learning in school, in high school, and why I was so bad at it. So I would always advise to learn grammar in a natural way, how a native speaker or like a native speaking child would learn his language grammar to understand it better. When I was a child in Russia, of course, I have learned how to say things and how to make sentences. And for this, you need grammar. But I haven't learned it by books. I have learned it by trial and error. I have said things and then my parents correct me. And that's the way I have learned to use grammar without going to school. And then when you go to school, you learn some more to be to use grammar more correctly and to use the language more correctly. But when you're learning your third or fourth language, you don't have to be grammatically correct. You don't have to be fluent. You just want to be able to express yourself or to read something, or it's the sky is the limit. It's what you want to do, of course, which your language learning is something that you have to decide yourself. But in the beginning, you don't have to memorize the whole grammar book. So that's why I would really recommend YouTube. I would recommend some native Russian speakers who make videos about the Russian language, and most of the times those videos will be about grammar points. And when you see a grammar point that you think you want to use, something that you want to say, I would just watch that video. Sometimes I would make some notes, sometimes I would just listen to it, and then the next time that I will hear this grammar point in a movie or from when I'm listening to a native speaker, I would recognize it because I've heard it before. And that's how you learn grammar. And then you try to apply it yourself. And I think it's a better way than just reading through rules and rules, especially with Russian language. There are a lot of grammar rules. And if you have to read it and memorize it, I think it's, first of all, not very interesting. And second of all, it's very difficult. And still, it will cost you a lot of time. And sometimes some grammar rules you wouldn't really use. And it's okay to make mistakes. Like I said, the most important part of language learning is to make mistakes, because from mistakes you will learn what mistake you made, and of course then not to do it anymore, or maybe to do it again, it doesn't matter. And even if you say things not grammatically correct, it's okay, because people will understand you. And the more you will use the language and not be and the more you're not afraid of using the language, the more you will learn and correct your mistakes yourself. So for learning grammar or for learning more vocabulary, you can use YouTube very easily just by subscribing to a couple of YouTubers who are talking about the Russian language and just listen to some explanations. And if we're only talking about grammar, I think YouTube really replaced entirely for me the textbooks. I realized this after beginning with learning Japanese, and I found a Japanese YouTube channel which really inspired me and motivated me to learn Japanese, but also to learn other languages. And this girl really explains grammar points so well that you kind of feel like you're in a classroom. And I think for Russian, there are a lot of people who do this as well. Just have to find some Russian YouTubers that you like, and then see what kind of videos did they make and what kind of grammar points do you recognize, and just click on that video and try to follow it, and maybe you will learn something new. Maybe you will find another video that you find interesting. And that's how I keep on using YouTube for learning languages. If you have something in the Russian language, a grammar point that you don't understand, or what is my cat doing? I'm sorry. if you have a grammar point that you don't understand, or a word that is usually used a lot in Russian and that you don't really can translate in English, but you want to know how to use that word and you can find a video on about it, you can ask me in the comments and I will make a video for you. So yeah, let me know. And that's why on this channel I haven't made a video like about the Russian alphabet, because I think because there are a lot of great YouTubers who already made those kind of videos. But for specific grammar points or specific words that you want to use in a context, just ask. An example for this, in Russian we have the word davai, and davai can mean so many things and can be used in so many different contexts. So when you're learning this word, I think it's great to look it up on YouTube and just to see in how many contexts you can use it and how many translations it has and when you use this word. And you can do that for a couple of other common words as well. Or when you're watching a movie and you hear a word a couple of times and you're like, oh, I don't know that one. Just look it up on YouTube. Not only the dictionary, because dictionary give you a literate translation or a word that is like resembles this word. But when you look it up on YouTube, you get the context behind the word. And I think that's very important. So this was, I think, everything that I use YouTube for. Oh no, I forgot the most important part, I'm sorry. Movies and music. So I'm not really learning languages through music, but I know that a lot of people do that. So you can look up songs that you like and then find the lyrics on YouTube or explanations and just learn vocabulary that way, and of course some grammar points. But you can also watch movies, the Russian movies. And because it's almost Christmas and almost New Year, I will give you 2 movies that I think are very interesting and that you can find on YouTube for free with the English subtitles, and that are New Year and Christmas related. When you watch a movie and you really find the movie interesting, you want to follow the story and you're also practicing your listening skills. So I would advise to watch the movie first with English subtitles to understand the story. If you're an advanced speaker, if you're an advanced learner or intermediate learner, maybe try immediately watching without the subtitles. But if you're a beginner, watch it with subtitles and then watch it again without, and see what kind of words you hear a lot and try to learn them, or try to focus on the pronunciation of the words. So I think movies are great for that. And the 2 movies that I would recommend with the Christmas spirit is, the first one is very old movie and a lot of I think every Russian knows this movie, and it's a very romantic movie that is watched every year in Russia before Christmas, before New Year. We don't really celebrate Christmas at the same time as in Europe or in America. We mostly celebrate New Year's, and then on 7th January we have Christmas. So this movie is more about the New Year, but we do have a Christmas tree that we set up for the New Year's. And this movie shows a lot of tradition and a lot of like holiday related themes, and I think it's great to watch it around this time. And it's called Ironia Судьбы, which means the irony of fate. But it also goes under the title of Slurkim Parem. And Slurkim Parem literally means light steam, with light steam. And you say this phrase, Slurkim Parem, to people who are just had a shower or took a bath and just coming out of the bathroom, and you will say, Slurkim Parem. It's the same like someone sneezes and you will say bless you, but then it's only used in this context when someone just got showered or went to the bathhouse or took a bath. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's what we say. And this movie takes place starts out in a bathhouse. So yeah, and there is more behind it, of course. But it has 2 titles, The Irony of Fate or Slurkim Parem. And the second movie is called Yoki, which means Christmas tree. Yoka is a Christmas tree. Yeah, it's a series of movies. You have, I think, 1 to 5 or something like that. You have 5 or 6 movies. And I think Yoki 2 is on YouTube with the English subtitles, and the older ones you can also find sometimes with English subtitles and sometimes without. But it's a great movie to it's a modern movie, but it's also a great movie to just watch around this time. And it's very simple and funny. It's comedy and romance together. and Yoki 2 is from 2011, so it's not that old, so it's recently a modern movie. So I will link both movies down below, you can check them out. And of course there are other TV shows and movies that you can find on YouTube. And yeah, just learn Russian by that. I hope this, because this was everything that I have to tell about self-studying. If you have any other questions, or if you have something that you missed in this video or that I didn't just discuss, you can ask it down below in the comments. And I hope this video will help you with your Russian learnings. And yeah, it's the last month of the year, so yeah, I hope you had a great language learning year, a great language learning Russian year or Japanese, Chinese, it doesn't matter what you're learning. I hope you had a great year, and if you're watching this video, you are probably learning Russian. And I hope you met your goals, and if you didn't met your goals, you didn't achieve your goals, it's fine to just adjust them and take them with you to the next year. And I hope next year will be also a great year to learn some languages and to learn Russian. So thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.